Oh, hi, kids. This is a pretty great place to work where you can just crack a pint of daisy cutter. Hi, fellas. Kanan, what do you see?
Got 3 people viewing.
You folks viewing, how's our audio before we begin? How's our audio? Give us a thumbs up or a 5 by 5 if you can hear us well before we talk too much and before we begin. So today we're in, I guess I should wait to see if you can hear me. Good thumbs up. Good. Awesome. Today we're in the shipping area of Carry Trainer. This is Kanan's domain. He's behind the camera right now. He basically lives and works up here for 50, 60 hours a week, packing the packages, listening to the hippie music and the bluegrass, and drinking all the beer out of the Carry Trainer fridge. Side note, it is 6 o'clock right now, so I don't want to hear any crap. So what are we going to talk about? We'll talk about a few things. Toss me one of those hats, please. Please and thank you. No, we're not here to sell you stuff, even though this is a cool new hat. I'm going to put that down and come back to it. So we've done bunches of giveaways. And Kanan and I were talking because about a month ago, I said I was going to give this away. We talked about it. And as I was just looking at it, I said to Kanan, I go, man, I don't want to give that knife away. This knife was hundreds of dollars. It's handcrafted by a friend of mine, Mike, from Auxiliary Manufacturing, completely custom. This one is got canvas and micarta G10. The steel itself is AEB -L steel. Just a freaking fantastic blade, custom Kydex sheath. And I said I was going to give it away, but then I noticed that people maybe aren't too excited about the stuff we've given away. We've given away Radian charging handles, Radian safety setups. We've given away really nice high-end flashlights. We've given away clothes. We've given away oil. I've got stuff like, we've got some really high-end Sabre flashlights, which is just like the one that's in my pocket that we're going to give away. This little sucker here is like over 260 lumens. Fits in the pocket. You know, nice stuff. We're not giving away garbage. And we do toss in things like hats and shirts. So, you know, I thought to myself, geez, before we just give away this knife, brand new, never been used, I was trying to help Mike I buy things like this as gifts for my buddies, and I bought a couple extra. I said, you know, make me a deal because I want a couple more. And I've got too much stuff. I've got stuff that I've acquired, and I thought, you know what? I would rather somebody win this. Look at this thing. How's that look from your end, Kanan? Is the lighting okay for them to see it?
Yeah, looks sweet.
And I'm not trying to be like sales guy. I'm not selling you this. One of you's going to win it. And all we asked you guys to do was if you bought any of our oil. This was all we said to do. We said if you bought our oil, the Gunfighter gun oil, share something about your experience with the lube. What is somebody saying that you're laughing at?
They were saying, how has nobody quoted Crocodile Dundee?
That ain't a knife. It's a beautiful knife, actually. Wait, is that guy saying it's not a knife? Like it's not big enough?
No, he's just saying, have you not referenced it?
Oh. I mean, it is a gorgeous, so just side note on Auxiliary Manufacturing, I bought a lot of stuff from him. I think this blade retails for like $250, $300. You can't totally see all the details, but this, like, look at the detail in the grip. That's all hand done. I've sat and watched him. I brought my son down there a few years ago. This particular blade has been media blasted to put like a cool matte finish on it. Great knife for hunting, whatever. Even if it's just something you're never going to use and you put on a shelf, you've got a completely handmade custom blade. So as Kanan and I were just sitting here talking, I said, hey, let's go on YouTube, because apparently the Instagram people that we've been sharing this stuff with don't care. With the knife, we'll go Mike Jarvis's business card because he warranties his stuff for life. So if you drop it, break it, even if it goes dull, you can send it back to him and he'll square it away. This is the Spike model. So again, all we asked was for you guys to share some stuff about the lube. And it's funny, from time to time we'll have conversations like this and people say, dude, don't get all commercial. And it's like, as my buddy Mike from Mr. Guns and Gear says, like, okay, we're just here doing this all day to not eat, to not put shoes on our kids' feet. Of course we have to make a living, and we're doing that by selling awesome products. So we're in the office, beer 30, the day just ended. Kanan's enjoying a Ballast Point, the Sculpin IPA, a delicious one. My brother Tom dropped those off. And I've got a daisy cutter. So we figured we'd open it up to a few questions. We're going to tell you about how to get this. All you have to do every time we post these giveaway, it's their Gunfighter gun oil giveaway. So if you've ever bought Gunfighter gun oil, you'll get a box like this. In the box is a sticker that says share a photo and your experience with Gunfighter gun oil and tag hashtag Gunfighter gun oil, hashtag the world's best lube, hashtag carry trainer. And we randomly select folks, and we do. Once a week, I say to Kanan, pick somebody. He goes online and he punches in hashtag carry trainer or hashtag Gunfighter gun oil or hashtag the world's best lube. And we see what you posted. And like if something strikes his fancy, like, oh, that guy's got a sweet mustache, I want to pick his stuff. Now you know the secret. Kanan wants a sweet mustache. You got to come around here so they can see your mustache. You see why this kid's so into mustaches? So we want you to have this stuff. All this stuff that we've sourced, made in the USA, it's cool. Let's do some questions. A lot of times when I'm doing live feeds, I got my own thoughts. I've got my own thoughts. I got to use proper grammar. And I don't have the bandwidth. So with Kanan here, maybe it's a little bit easier. So if you get a question, throw a question out. I'll try to answer questions for a few minutes, and we can just banter back and forth. What do you see, Kanan?
Well, somebody asked who makes the blade. You said that, Auxiliary Blade.
Auxiliary Manufacturing. Mike Jarvis used to be in the city of Chicago. He moved out to great state of Nevada. He's in Reno, Nevada now, working out there.
Somebody asked when the cleaning product's going to be coming out.
We are waiting on the label. Man, we could probably show them the label. Do you want to run down to the table real quick? So we've got in the conference room. I'm going to show you guys. You're going to be the first people to see it. It's going to be pretty exciting. So, product made in America. It's an awesome water-based gun cleaner. What I do, and we'll have a whole video that goes with it. So when you buy it, you'll be able to say, "Hey, how do I use this?" And you can just go on gunfighteroil.com and see the video. But we have a cool logo that we made up for it. And what you'll see, and I'm not going to give you all of it, I'm just going to show you a little bit. So toss me a bottle, baby. Come on, right there. All right. So you'll be able to differentiate green from blue, blue for Gunfighter gun oil super cleaner, it's called, and of course our lube. So this is the super cleaner, and that should be out because of freaking COVID. Stuff is not shipping properly, so we're just waiting on our labels so we can bottle up. What do you got?
Got any teasers on who future Higher Line podcast guests are going to be?
Ooh, got a few. We just recorded one today. A friend of mine he was a former vice chairman of the Republican Party with me when I was a vice chairman, and he's now running for office, and it's not because he wants to. He's totally stepped out of that life. He's doing it because people aren't doing it. We've got that one. We've just did one, what did I do the other day? We've got a young girl that was tragically the victim of some very serious domestic violence and made a good life for herself and now empowers other people that are victims of domestic violence to overcome that crap. I've got one that's kind of secret that I don't want to share with you. We've got a professional musician coming on. We've got, I'm trying to get our dog Charlie to come on. She's been a little non-committal, but I think I'm going to get her on. We've got quite a few good people. What else you got? And if you guys have an idea of somebody you'd like to hear, shoot it to us. We just recorded one this past week. Dr. Eric Won, W-O-N. This was a fascinating discussion. I was literally like on the edge of my seat. cutting edge neuroscience for repairing the brain that's been damaged due to trauma, due to explosions, due to PTSD, due to traumatic abuse and things like that at a young age. Pretty cool stuff. What you got?
Why do you only like Apex for the Glock?
Very good question. So are there other companies that make triggers, that make trigger bars, that make shoes that drop into a Glock, that make it feel good and that work good? The answer is yes. Are there other companies? I have some, okay? I've got several from other companies, but I will tell you, having visited Apex Tactical's facility, one, it's a state-of-the-art facility. Two, it is run by engineers. It's run by machinists. They've got from, I believe, Polytech maybe, or Caltech, one or the other, I can't remember. Prestigious engineering universities. They're quality control people. They're testing people. They're design people. They're engineers. They're not like, ooh, I'm a gun guy and I want to do stuff. They're all engineers, and they drop test that stuff. They actually drop test the stuff. I don't want to name firearm names, but this company found out about guns that were not drop safe because of their testing. So if you can think of a gun, one of you will say it in the comments, that was found to be not drop safe. This company found it because they dropped stuff. And if you haven't seen the video we did on Apex, that's why. Can you go buy another trigger that goes in your Glock and makes it okay? Yes. If you go look at SIG and Glock and Walther and Smith & Wesson and you name it, Springfield, those companies go to Apex and have them design trigger assemblies. Those companies don't go to all the other ones. And they're not cheap.
Somebody asked what weight gunfighter gun oil is.
It's an interesting question. So weights for these types of lubricants are not directly analogous to like oil weights. You know, our new website went up and the product spec sheet with all of that should have been uploaded. If it's not today, I will get that uploaded in the next week or two. Do we have a sample bottle up here?
For which stuff?
Just a small one of the small sample bottles.
No.
You got one of the small ones?
Oh, yeah.
So let me grab one of those. We could just do a very simple test. I'll just use this. You know what I want you to see, the weight of this. You know, this cool thing is if I mix this, I don't know if it's going to work too well. Do you see that?
Yeah, we're seeing it.
Okay, cool. I don't want to make too big a mess. You're about the consistency of fairly warm 10W30. You know, if we're going to talk about gun oil for a minute, it's comical to me when I see posts that indicate, oh, you can just use motor oil. Oh, you can just use this. You can put bacon grease on your gun and it's better than no oil at all. Look, I've tried all the lubes. I've cleaned my guns with brake cleaner. I've cleaned my guns with carb cleaner. I've cleaned my guns with paint thinner, with denatured alcohol, with lacquer thinner, with diesel fuel, with gasoline, with kerosene, with all of the types of solvents that you could think of. And I've lubed with all those things. And it's funny to me, it's kind of like when dudes for some reason, when talking about lubricants, ammunition, music, trucks, gun types, they get really defiant about what they believe to be true and use whatever you want. But I will tell you, if you go to NASCAR, for example, they're not going to frickin' Walmart and buying 79-cent oil for those engines. You might say, well, my gun is not doing the same thing as their engine. You're right. Your gun does not have an oil sump or an oil pump. Your gun does not have an oil cooler. So when people start telling me, oh, well, your gun also doesn't have an oil filter, guys. When people tell me that they're happy just to use motor oil, Yes, it will lubricate your gun. Will it lubricate the gun like a lubricant like this? No, it's not. They're not meant to. Motor oil is meant to be changed out frequently, as maybe your gun oil will be if you shoot a lot. Motor oil is not meant to be put on something and have it stuck in a safe or in a gun case or locked away. Motor oil is meant to be flushed through a system, filtered, cooled, and continually washed over the mechanical parts. So I went on that little tangent because it comes up a lot when I see people say like, you can just use whatever. Well, go ahead and use whatever. That's my 2 cents. What do you got?
Cody Davis asked if you have a 1911 that you would carry.
If I had to, sure. I mean, I've got a 1911 I hunt with. I've hunted with my nephew that's behind the camera with a 1911. It's a big, fat, long slide 10 millimeter. I had it custom made years ago. If I had to. I've got nothing against 1911s. I think that people tend to fixate on what they know. If the gun makes you feel safe and you can use it efficiently, yeah, it's fine. But most of you are not going to carbine classes with a Winchester 94 or a Marlin 336 like Kanan and I both hunt deer with, a lever action. Most of you are not going to carbine classes with a 30 carbine from World War II in Korea. Most of you are not going to carbine classes with a Thompson 45 because there's new technology, in this case an AR-15, that works a lot better. So 45 ACP is a good round. It's over 100 years old, and the technology can work. But I'll also tell you, sometimes guys get mad and they're like, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, the one thing I do know, and Kanan will attest because he's sat through more than 100 hours of training, if not several hundred hours of training, we see guns break. Every class we see sights fall off and guns go through stoppages. Sometimes it's just a cleaning issue, sometimes it's an ammo issue, sometimes it's a shooter-related issue. In shooter-related issues, people will say, oh, he's limp wristing it. Well, guess what? If the gun doesn't work right because of how you're holding it, that's not a good thing. I want a gun that's able to work through physical issues such as that. And we see 1911 single action guns go down a lot. What were you squinting about? What did somebody just say?
Somebody said, I threw a few guns in a Ziploc bag with motor oil and buried it in the desert. 5 years later, it works like new.
Oh, cool. Well, good for you. I mean, that's weird. I mean, you hear things like that. Is that a real?
My name is actually living in a desert, so
maybe you did, huh? I mean, again, so that's a fun anecdotal story. You're not shooting the gun. The gun's wrapped in plastic, buried from the sun, if you really did that. There's no excessive heat. There's no excessive moisture because you're in the frickin' desert. There's no cycling. There's no carbon being added. There's no powder residue. So, I mean, it's not really a test that means anything to me. It doesn't mean anything. I froze it one time. What else you got?
Hellcat reviewer thoughts.
I've got a Hellcat in the gun room. Springfield was kind enough and generous enough to send us a Hellcat kit. We've also got the Apex trigger upgrade that Springfield asked them to build. So we've got to finish filming that. I've got so much time. We're not a reviewing company. We're a training company. We're also a comedy network of sorts. If you just saw my nephew's mustache, you understand the jokes, even though he doesn't think it's a joke. But I'm not in business like there are YouTube platforms that exist just to review product, and that's how they generate content. We sell things like Gunfighter gun oil and our shirts, but we're a training company, and that's how we do things. So I want to get that video out, but I want to do it right. I'm not knocking anybody, but there's a lot of people, they get sent, hey, have you seen the new U-line? What model is this, by the way? This is the sweet one. I don't even know. We'll call it the Model X. Have you seen the new Model X tape gun? And they use it for 5 minutes and they make a review. Well, that's not legit to me. I want you to wrap 1,000 boxes with this sucker before you do it. So I use the stuff. That's actually how I fell in love with the 365, People hated us for it, but I shot that 365 till it broke on film at a Gabe White class, and now I've got 4 of them, and we shoot the snot out of them. So I don't exist just to review stuff. That gun feels pretty good. I think it's a nice, Springfield's in business to make a living. I think that they jumped into that market at the right time with the right gun. The one we have has the dot on it too, so we will get that out. What you got?
Well, Ralphie Boy wanted to say that
Hey, Ralphie.
his son said hi, or your son said hi.
Ralphie's a creep because he's actually older than me.
Had a couple questions about first AR purchases, what to get.
So something we tell everybody all the time when it comes to any question, you know, should I marry her? Should I buy this truck? Should I take this training? What should I train? Is what's your goal? What's the AR for? A bone stock, it's funny, I see dudes, you know, guys call me a boomer, and I will break most of those dudes' arms off with both hands tied behind my back. Yeah, I just said it. Guys bust my chops, but then I hear those guys talking about like Smith & Wesson M&Ps. I've got a Smith & Wesson M&P that's probably 17 years old, and it's a great gun. It's been shot to snot. I've outshot cool dudes with that gun that have high-speed gear. I had a bone stock M&P 15 that I put an EOTech on it, one of the higher-end old-school EOTechs, and that thing went for years. Ruger makes some nice stuff. A lot of guys want to build their first gun. For the most part, it's not saving you any money. I think that it's better to get something that a manufacturer has figured out what components work together, and go with that. I love Radian. They're on the really got all the bugs worked out from a extremely research heavy company that made the gun as accurate and shootable as possible. I hope that helps. It is the shooter, not the tool.
Let's see.
What you got?
Do you like Hollow Sun Red Dot Optics?
I actually know a guy that was a designer with them. I think it's a fine optic. I like aim point on rifles. I like EOTech on rifles. There's just too much testing behind them. But I've got some SIG. I've got some Vortec optics. I've got, I don't think I have any Hollow Sun. We were using the Vortex optics, geez, the Sparks when they first came out. So that's got to be 10, 11 years ago. I love the EOTechs. I've yet to really break one. I've got several of the micros from Aimpoint. They're just such solid optics. Is Hollow Sun better than those? No, but I think that they're tested enough that you're going to get a good product. Could I shoot those and be happy? Yep, because we're not going to war with them, and they don't need to be able to be dropped from tops of buildings and stuff. So I think a lot of the mid-range optics are good. I think when you start to get into the budget zone, I've had guys show up with stuff they paid $69 for, and stuff doesn't hold a zero, it's shutting off, and so I think there's enough testing out of the Hollow Sun. What are you laughing at?
Tom said he's got some nice IPA in his white van.
Yeah, so Tom's one of our friends and students that tries to constantly lure me into his van with cases of cool IPA to sit in the shade in the parking lot. That's what he sounds like. He's got a big, thick walrus mustache, and he says, "Hey, fellas, why don't you take a load off in the back of my van?" What you got?
Beretta 92X for concealed carry.
Just shot a video today. Kanan actually sprayed me down. We were looking at, we do some work with a great company called Victos. We wear their shoes, we wear their boots, I wear their jackets, and other gear, and we're testing some rain gear. And so I had a 92X on in a JM custom Kydex outside the waistband holster today. Great gun if you have good practices for decocking and have a right holster and the right clothes. Yeah, you can hide anything. You can hide a Desert Eagle if you want.
There's been a couple people asking about ammo shortages and when you think it'll get better?
It's a good question. You know when it'll get better? When we all stop buying all the ammo. You know, it's funny. You guys remember like 3 months ago when we all made fun of everybody buying toilet paper, but when we saw the toilet paper, we bought it too because it's like, we know all these other idiots are buying the toilet paper, but I'm not going to be the one without toilet paper because I'm not a monster cleaning my butt out with my frickin' hand. So even though we make fun of people that are hoarding things, we innately know, well, I better get some because if I don't get some, there ain't going to be some. I can't tell my kid to use a super cleaner. Hey, maybe we could sell these as toilet paper. So this has happened enough in my life back in the 90s with the Clintons. This is as bad as it's ever been, but it's simple supply and demand. I will make a couple comments on it. People are talking about gouging, and what's happening is, we've talked about this in podcasts, the factories from guys like Supervel to the big boys like maybe Winchester or Federal are doing double and triple shifts as fast as they can run their machines. Scary, because now you start to see quality control go down. You don't want quality control issues with ammunition. I had some ammo from a large company on the West Coast. The companies, I think they're back now. They got really big and then they disappeared, and their product was sold on cost alone. And I bought maybe 5,000 rounds of rifle ammo, and it was just sitting on the shelf, and I needed it for a class maybe 5 years ago, and I had all kinds of issues with it. They didn't want to make it right. I finally forced them to, but they made it right and refunded me, and I sent them their junk ammo back. But that ammo came from a time that there was a shortage. I believe it was during Obama's first presidential bid, and people went crazy and bought stuff. That said, these companies are doubling and tripling productivity, but the demand is still 20, 30, 40% higher than they can produce. So naturally, you know, if there's 10 pieces of pizza and we got 20 people that want pizza, and they can make the pizza every hour, and every hour they can feed 10 people, but every hour there's 20 people that want pizza, there's still going to be hungry people. That's Mickey Economics 101. You just got a Harvard degree in economics from Mickey. We can't make enough pizza. And so I think people hoarding, just like food and toilet paper, we all like to make fun of people that do it, but then we do it. You know, it's natural. I'm going to make fun of you idiots, but I want to make sure I got me and mine covered. So it's not going to stop until we stop. Somebody called me yesterday and they said, hey, I'm buying primers because Supervel's taking primers and making ammo. Primers normally cost for pistol 2 cents, 1.7 cents, 3 cents, somewhere in there depending on the volume. This guy said, I got 1,000 primers for like 2 cents a piece. Cool, that's a good price. I also found a guy to sell me more, 1,000 primers, and the guy wanted like 11 cents a piece for them. I'm like, don't buy them, man. That's just dumb. That's like literally you're paying for the primer almost what you could get a cartridge for a couple years ago, like the whole cartridge. When will it go away? It'll go away when we stop acting like idiots buying everything. What else you got? I'm going to turn this other light on real quick.
If you have to treat yourself or someone else for a gunshot/stab wound to the limbs, should you immediately tourniquet and then bandage, or simply add pressure and roll it?
That's like saying if somebody yells at you, should you shoot them? No. I mean, if a gunshot wound is peripheral in nature, and I'm not a doctor, but I mean, there's an old saying that you can apply to most things. Situations dictate tactics and procedures. So like if you're a salesperson and I want to buy this, I'm probably not going to try to sell you this because they're not even close to being the same thing. So direct pressure is always number one, right? I mean, if this limb was completely severed from a car accident or a shooting and my brachial artery was bleeding out, I know I'm in trouble. So my number one thing is to have the ability to compose myself. Holy shit, I'm going to die in 2 or 3 minutes if I can't deal with this. So it's going to be direct pressure. You might have to do something like take a t-shirt or something and put it under your stump, and now I'm at least putting pressure into that artery where it comes out of the body. But I think a better way of answering that question is not to try to give you some nonsense answer of, yes, put a tourniquet on. Can you put a tourniquet on even if you don't need it? Yes, prep the tourniquet, get it around the limb so it's ready, and you don't need to cinch it down. I saw an accident, I told Kanan about this just last week. Woman had, I think I talked about it briefly, left arm, complete compound fracture, left ankle, complete compound fracture. This hand was basically bent 90 degrees, breaks, and both of these bones were exposed. Left ankle, the whole ankle joint was out of the skin. And in hindsight, I was dealing with some smoke in her car and trying to make sure that she could breathe. In hindsight, I saw it. There wasn't a lot of blood, but I should have probably put a TQ on her leg and just left it. We were in a major metropolitan area. Fire department was right there, and they got there 5 minutes after I did. I just happened to see the accident. But looking back on the way home, I thought about, okay, what did I see? What did I do right? What did I do wrong? How could I have done different? I had to break the windows out of her car and such. Why I'm telling you that is I thought about it after the fact. I looked at her leg. I knew it was gruesome, but I didn't see a lot of blood. And so I wasn't going to move her other than trying to make sure that she had a good airway and there was no other life threats to her. Point being, I could have probably prepped a tourniquet on that leg and the fire department would have probably tossed it in the garbage. I would have rather spent $20 than had that peripheral bleeding start. So the answer to your question, not what you wanted. Real answer to your question, go spend a week or two studying TCCC, Stop the Bleed, studying traumatic wound care, and you'll develop enough exposure to those problems and to get the answer to your question. I hope that helped. What else you got?
Had a question about classes in Florida as well as Texas.
Lay it on me. What's the question, though?
Just whether they're going to be there, and I think you do have some plans.
There's a class right now in both states, in Dallas and in Homestead, Florida. 2 different dates. I think I'm in Homestead in November or December. I think December. And January we're in Dallas, Texas area. Both of those classes have a 1-day pistol tune-up. The point of the pistol tune-up is we get you to shoot a ton. We get you comfortable with the holster. We get you comfortable shooting some targets maybe while you're moving a little bit. Not crazy stuff, but we expose you to a lot of good repetitions so that you develop good, safe, repeatable habits. You should be able to leave there knowing how to use your pistol really well, knowing how to engage targets maybe 15 yards and in. And then after that class is a 3-day rifle pistol course where we go through some of that stuff that we did in the first day, but then we cram on all kinds of rifle and pistol work, shooting, moving, shooting out to a couple hundred yards with a regular red dotted carbine or iron sighted carbine. It's good stuff. One of those in Dallas right now, one of those in Homestead. Thank you for the question.
Have you used RDS on pistol and force-on-force training, and have you noticed an advantage over irons?
I think I am the wrong guy to ask for that. Yes, played with that in force-on-force. A lot of force-on-force, first of all, is bullshit. It's bullshit because you come to the event knowing something's going to go down. Doesn't mean it's not valuable, but it's an interesting dynamic. And there's a lot of people that do force-on-force. I want to say wrong, and there's a lot of arguments on what's right and what's wrong, but there's a lot of force-on-force that is contrived. It's like if I said to you, hey, tomorrow you're going to show up at 8 o'clock to this place, and at 8 o'clock at this place you're going to get a bunch of gear on, and at this place with all this gear on we're going to run through fake scenarios where you may or may not do the wrong thing or you may or may do the right thing. Worst thing is you get a little bruised body and a little bruised ego versus you having to sort that out. Now, of course, we do that because we vet our skills. Look, it's a no-brainer that a red dot sight helps the shooter because we become one focal plane. I see Kanan behind the camera, and that's all I need to see. I put the dot on him. Personally, I think 7, 8, 10 yards in, depending on the complexity of the target, it doesn't make a hill of beans a difference. Our courses, and I'm happy to see a lot of people using the material that we've pumped out the last 5, 6 years. Tons of moving. We do tons of moving and shooting. We shoot things like that big, and even that big while moving. With iron sights, with red dots, whatever. Red dots are definitely a boom for the user, but they don't trump what has to happen anyway, which is you aligning the bore on the target, pressing the trigger while it's there, staying composed, all that good stuff. Speed isn't everything either. How about being aware, not getting caught? Hope that answered your question. And I've got 10 guns with dots on them, so it's not that I don't use them. I'm just an iron guy. I like simple.
Raw Cookie Dough was wondering about, said he's a little bit of a bigger guy, struggling with the grip on his P365 XL.
Big hands, little hands. One thing right out of the gate that you can do, if struggling means that you're having a hard time like holding on to it, do some things to toughen up the skin on your hands, and send your gun to my buddy Ben at Boresight Solutions and have him texture it. If you want to use somebody else, use somebody else. I recommend Ben from Boresight Solutions. Tell him Mick sent you. But increase the grip, the grip friction coefficient. Make it
more specifically. It was his support hand. He can't reach his fingertips.
So I don't have a 365 up here, and I wouldn't take it out because we're drinking, but I will show you on here because it doesn't matter. So if I'm holding a grip, this hand, regardless, little gun, big gun, I'm doing the same thing. I'm trying to wrap as much of my meat around the grip as possible, as much of my meat around the grip as possible. If your fingers are floating, if you're saying your little fingers are floating, that's the price to pay for having a little tiny gun like that. Is that what you're saying?
I think so.
So you got to make sure you've got more pressure up top, and if these little fingers aren't able to grab on, you just got more here. More here.
Any advice for troubleshooting with both eyes open? He said he's right-handed and right eye dominant, but having focusing issues with both eyes open.
I think there's so much to be said about that. And I will tell you, first of all, I've never been in a gunfight, but I am a graduate of Force Science Institute. I have trained with enough cool guys and been around enough cool guys that what I'm about to say I know to be true, not just from conversations, but from science. If past Canaan there was a bad guy and I needed to shoot them, one of the main things that we talk about with both eyes open shooting is awareness. Well, I'll tell you what, if I'm shooting a basketball, driving my car, shooting a bad guy, if I'm right eye dominant, I'll go this way, and I've got that out, and I got to punch the gun out and close my left eye for a minute, yes, I lose awareness here. But the fact of the matter is I can only do one thing at a time, which is either press the trigger here or look over here to where there could be a bad thing. I can only press the trigger here and move or do whatever I'm doing. I can't do both. You know, I can't have a conversation with this person and this person. I can't be aware of this and this. And if I can see them both and they're both a threat, well, that's a shit sandwich. So I will say, and I've actually never said this publicly until now, although I've wrote the outline for a video on it, I think the notion that you must always have both eyes open is sort of bullshit. I think it's a good thing to do, but I would rather you, one, pay more attention before you ever need to draw your gun, and two, get excellent with your gun with however God wired your eyes up so that you don't miss and you can end whatever problem's in front of you. Does that make sense? As for your question, if you really do want to get good at that, squint with that eye. Take your shooting glasses, put a little piece of tape on your shooting glasses to blur that vision, and that will help you.
Tips for having a positive mindset in the current political climate.
Stop being a bitch. No, it's tough. sorry to make light of it, to have a positive mindset in any climate is literally just a decision, because if you're struggling to be positive, it means that negative emotions are starting to overtake you. It is a choice no matter what you do. When you get out of bed, I think it was Abraham Lincoln that said it best, although I've been told this quote is not accurate. A man's about as happy as he makes up his mind to be. That's true. Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. It's a choice. It's a choice. Am I going to eat that thing I know I shouldn't? Am I going to drink that thing I know I shouldn't? Am I going to look at that thing I know I shouldn't? Am I going to engage in this activity? Am I going to think the thing I shouldn't? It's all a choice. Just fight on. Best way to deal with that is to identify what it is you want and then just think about that. What else you got?
CJ said new shooters need to learn about humidity when humidity is about. Can you add anything to that?
Humidity. What does humidity have to do with the price of rice? I don't even want to say China now because we're not supposed to be talking about China. What does humidity have to do?
He later wrote, been seeing a lot of new shooters with cans laying in the sun while they shoot, then wonder why they don't fire.
Oh, talking about, okay, so, I mean, if people are out doing stuff like that, I think they have a bigger issue. You know, suppressors never were meant to be abused in the sense of what they are, going out shooting like they are. That's not really what they're meant for, but people want to do that now.
Any advice on cross-eye dominant shooters?
Sure, I'm cross-eye dominant. Put the sight on the target and then press the trigger while the sights are aligned on the target.
Do you think there's too much of an emphasis on draw speed and split speed?
Hell yeah, I do. I think it's awesome if you're a competitive shooter. I think if you want to go, I think, bear with me, I think that if your goal is to be a three-point champion on the basketball court or a slam dunk champion, or you want to be a IBJJF Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gold medalist, or you want to be a long-distance marathon runner, or you want to be the greatest cello player that plays naked on your head, that's for you, right? If you want to develop the fastest split times or the fastest draw stroke, go ahead. I will tell you this, the greatest shooters that I know, Max Michel, JJ Ricazza, my buddy Les Keys Martoni, and many other grandmaster level shooters, they're fast. They're really fast. But they're actually a lot of times not the dude that does the 0.60 sub-second appendix draw. They're actually a lot of times not the guy that's that crazy, because they don't waste the energy to get rid of a tenth of a second there, because a lot of times it's actually unsafe. What those guys do is they refine everything. A couple percent here, a couple percent there, their movement from target to target. I think what we need to start to think about is, why are we training that way? If it's because you think a 0.80 draw is going to save you when a 0.12 draw wouldn't, well, yeah, that's 0.4 of a second. That's almost a half a second. And according to the Tuller study, actually called the Tempe study, somebody could fire at you 2 to 3 times in that time frame. Well, don't be there. Pay attention. Don't get caught where your life is hanging in the balance of 0.4 of a second or 0.3 of a second. Well, that's just not how it goes. You know, what if you're holding your kid? Pay attention. Wouldn't it be much better to refine your skills around not getting caught and maybe having 20 or 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute to see what's happening and not get caught like that? Well, what if it happens? Okay, so you're literally training to be ambushed and have no reactionary gap. So is it a bad thing? Not at all. I think it's freaking cool. Guys like Bob Munden, Tom Knapp, Bill Jordan, and other famous shooters like that was very cool to watch. I would love to shoot a dime out of the air with a 6-shooter. I would love to shoot, 2 shots in under 1/4 of a second like Bob Munden could. Literally, he could do that. That's really, really neat. But does it make you safer? No, I don't think so. I think it's a fun time. I think that's what it is. I can shoot a 44 Magnum off a slack line, one-handed, a 44 Magnum, full power loads at steel targets 25 and 50 yards away. Who gives a shit? I mean, it's fun, but what does it have to do with anything? Nothing. Go ahead.
Going to the range with 100 rounds once a week, what skills, techniques should I spend that ammo on?
If you carry a gun, accuracy, I'd spend probably 10 rounds at the beginning, shoot a group. Try to make every round touch each other. I don't care if you're at 2 yards, 10 yards, 20 yards. Shoot, slow fire, perfect group. Draw the gun, sights on target. Pressure, 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 shot breaks. Reacquire sights. Same bullet hole. Pressure, 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 shot breaks. Reacquire sights. Pressure, 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 etc. Then work draw strokes. Don't waste your time working on reloads. Work on the draw stroke. 2 shots or more. Draw 1, 2 to a small target zone. Work on moving while doing that. Why not one shot? Because it's easy to make one shot or miss one shot and just give up. Shoot at something small, something like this 4x6 piece of paper, a 3x5 note card, a Post-it note, something like that. When you finish that range session, then go back to accuracy. Start and end all training with accuracy is what my mentor Bob Housingay said. And work on things like coming out of your holster efficiently, acquiring a target, maybe use 5 or 10 rounds, take an empty mag and do 1 reload, 1 drills to be able to retrieve your magazine from wherever it is you store it on your body, but don't waste a lot of time doing that. Get good at making hits, get good on making follow-up shots, get good on reacquiring your sights, get good on safe and efficient practices coming in and out of the holster. A couple more and we're done. What do you got?
How did you get into firearms and self-defense so much to make it your lifestyle? And he later actually corrected himself and said life's work, not lifestyle.
I understood it. Okay, thank you. Had 2 family friends murdered. My nephew standing next to me, his mother, my sister's best friend in the world was brutally raped and murdered when I was 15 years old. I've told the story before. I do not tell it as a sales pitch. I actually try to talk about it as little as possible because it's freaking horrible. A monster raped and murdered a 16-year-old girl that I knew from the time I was a little boy, lit the house on fire that he stabbed her dozens of times in and left her for dead with a infant nephew of hers that she was babysitting. Thank God the neighbors saw and rescued her. I've been involved in things like hunter education and hunter safety in the past. My state of Illinois had a big issue with being the last state to pass gun laws that allowed for concealed carry. A lot of people don't realize that never in American history did we have laws for concealed carry. People erroneously, which means wrong, think that before some time we all just walked around with guns. It's actually not true. As far back as pre-colonial times and post-revolution, most places banned the concealing of weapons in public. That's a fact. It's not Mickey's interpretation of history, it's fact. So fast forward to today, we have a new basis like McDonald versus Chicago. I actually knew Mr. McDonald. I know his granddaughters. That's a major, major case. Shepard versus Madigan was another one. We had these court cases that took place that started to change laws across the country as well as some previous to that. So I got involved in the gun lobby here in Illinois. I presided over an organization called the Right to Carry Association. Spent a lot of time involved in politics, passing legislation, fighting to win campaigns, and one thing leads to another. I've been a student of this stuff since I was a kid. I practiced martial arts since I was a single-digit child. I've been shooting guns since I was a single-digit child, and I don't know everything. I've got some great mentors, and I felt there was some things that we could pass on in a meaningful way, so here we are.
Let's see.
One thing I will tell you, I will never tell you I know something if I don't, and I will also tell you that there are people out there that know things that might be better at answering the question. That's why I work with guys like Paul Sharp and Z. Durham and Don Deo and Joe Gupton and others. Go ahead.
What are your thoughts on dry fire aids like those barrel laser pointers?
So I think anything that gets you to train is awesome. If you don't have like the ability to, like some people don't want to just like, my workout is a jump rope and some free weights and a heavy bag and like just like lifting things and lifting myself. Some people are like, it's boring. I want to go to a gym and I want like the upbeat music. I don't like that. I want to be alone. I want to listen to like some Steely Dan. Right? That's what I want to do. If you need some kind of aid to get you excited and motivated, cool. One thing I don't like about lasers is what happens if I've got a device like a SIRT pistol, and I use a SIRT pistol in every class, but if I point a gun out that's got a laser that gets projected onto a target, and I pull the trigger, what am I looking at? The laser. Most of us look at the laser, which means we're not looking at what? The sights. So you're training yourself to look for a laser. Well, when you shoot holes at people, there's not a hole magically appearing. Even in paper on a target, sometimes you can't see it, or on steel. So you can train yourself a really wrong way to do things. So if it gets you to train, yes, but make sure that you are doing in any dry fire. The key to good dry fire is making sure that you are ingraining awesome habits, which is why I tell everybody that learns anything, golfing, anything that's physical, swinging a baseball bat, shooting a gun, get a lesson or two so that you know how to train yourself. Because what happens is you go dry fire, and in dry fire, all you're doing is just training yourself mechanical movements, right? Draw, press the gun out, boom, 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 bring the gun back in, holster. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're just developing a lot of habits at shit. Getting really good at shit. What else you got? Last one.
What would you consider mentally ready to teach a kid?
So at what age is that child old enough? Birth. And I taught my kids this stuff. My mother was very good about exposing. So my mom and dad had 11 kids. No, I don't agree with everything that my parents did when I was a child, and that's okay. And my kids won't agree with everything I did. But my mom, unlike my dad, was the kind of gal like, Mom, I'm going to climb that tree. Okay, have fun. Mom, I'm going to jump in the pond. Okay, have fun. Mom, I want to peel potatoes or whatever. My mom would let you do things. And of course, she'd help you. I remember climbing up a tree, and how do I get down? She goes, the same way you got up, right? It doesn't work that way. My mom's 4 foot tall, like literally, she's 4'11". Like she doesn't climb anything. She's like Hobbit mom. So Hobbit mom could say, do this, but she couldn't do it herself. But she let you. Young kids, children are so moldable, right? Religion, things like sports, right? If dad loves sports, chances are the kids are going to love sports. If mom loved a certain type of food, chances are the kid will love it because mom makes them the food. If mom loves yoga, maybe the kids will love yoga. The brain develops until adulthood in young people. If you wait until the child is a certain age, the plasticity in the brain starts to go away. You then expose them to something new. I'm not saying take a 3-month-old and be like, plug your ears, Donnie, here we go. No, that'd be weird. But just like religion, I think, is a good religion, or patriotism, or things like honor, living honorably. You don't wait till your kid's 10 years old to be like, all right, son, it's time to tell you, don't lie, right? Or, now that you're 12, son, I'm going to tell you, don't steal shit out of your sister's bedroom. No, you would teach them that from the time that they were born. And if you're religious, you would probably, from the time that kid was born, you'd say, here's the code that me and your mom and grandparents, we kind of live by, right? We go to that building on Sunday, or we go to that building on Saturday, whatever the religion is, and you would teach them that. If it's none at all, you'd teach them that. Son, that stuff's not for us. Your grandpa made us do that. And I said, hell no, not for you. And the kid would grow up thinking that. Engage with your kids in things like patriotism, living honorably, safety with guns, but also protecting life. I think that's an American ideal. And that's the somewhat mythical idea of what the Japanese admiral, emperor, depending on which story you read, said, behind every blade of grass is hiding a rifleman here in America, right? A man with a gun. Some people say it was never said, but they knew that. The Japs, when they came here during Pearl Harbor, the Japanese knew that. We don't do that anymore. I'm not saying teach your kids to fight, to shoot guns. It's to respect life enough that you pass down these ideals of good ethics, good morals, good citizenship, good leadership, servitude to their community, to their mother, to their father, to each other. And what that does is it makes a good citizen when they get older. The gun is not a big deal to them because they have respect for themselves and others, and they respect life. How's that?
Pretty sweet.
Hey guys, we appreciate you. We're going to be posting up on our Instagram page. If you're not following us on Instagram, you should. Carry Trainer on Instagram. You should also be following Gunfighter Gun Oil on Instagram, because sometimes some of these giveaways we only do on the Gunfighter page. So it's Gunfighter Gun Oil on Instagram. I hope you follow. Carry Trainer on Instagram as well. And we're going to give this away. I'm going to wait a couple days for this to percolate a little bit, and somebody's going to win this Delish knife. We'll include a Gunfighter Gun Oil t-shirt, so once we pick the winner, we'll ask your shirt size. We'll probably toss in some things like patches, some stickers, that kind of stuff. And we'll make sure that you get it sent to you. You will have to be an adult. You have to be legal to own a tool like this. But it's going to be cool. It's a few $100 gift that I'm just going to give to somebody because it's going to be cool. To do that, you have to share something about Gunfighter Oil. My rules, our game. If you don't like it, don't play. But it's going to be fun. We appreciate you. We appreciate your time. I enjoyed having this discussion with you. It's actually tiring. It's tiring sitting here like answering questions. There's bright lights on me. And we've been recording all day. We did a podcast this morning. We did filming with my brother Steven. We did filming with the Victos jackets. Kanan's been packing when he wasn't hosing me down. My dog's got a back injury. I had to deal with that. And I've got a funeral tomorrow for a loved one. So, long day. I'm tired. Tell somebody you love them. Don't be dickheads. I think that final closing thought is what's important. Teach your kids well. Be good. End it, Kane.